Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled today are Daisy Tormé and author Ellen Sandler. Daisy Tormé was born in Los Angeles to legendary jazz musician Mel Tormé and British actress Jeanette Scott. A few years after appearing at the age of 8 on a TV special with her father called The Christmas Songs, her parents split, and Daisy moved with her mom to London. She went to boarding school. She was in residency at the English National Opera. She won honors at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, but she came back to Los Angeles to earn her Bachelor of Arts in English. She went to UCLA. How important were those studies at the English National Opera with, who was it?
Dennis Wicks.
Dennis Wicks.
Well, Dennis was incredible. I was in boarding school, as you said, and he came down twice a week, and we were very lucky that he was sort of the resident where we were. And I started singing with him, and before I knew it, I started doing operas with like local regional companies and stuff like that. And it was, you know, when you've never done opera before and you don't really know opera very well, I think you look at it as being a very stuffy medium, a lot like fine art, you know, and it's exactly the opposite. If you like to sing and if you like to act, and you want to be around a lot of other people that are just as big of a ham and love also to sing and to act, but are pretty serious about their classical music studies, then you're just in a perfect environment. It was great fun and amazing tutelage.
But how did you know that you could sing opera? Had you been taking singing lessons?
Well, I started taking singing lessons when I was about 13, 12 or 13. I'd always sung.
So when you were
started
on the
taking
show,
actual lessons, you know.
So when you were on the show with your father at 8, were you singing?
Oh, in the house, in the car, in the bath.
Always?
Yes, always, always, in the school choirs and stuff like that. But it was only when I became sort of a young teenager that I started really learning much tougher pieces from the magic flute and from Fidelio and really kind of more serious classical operatic stuff.
So you were living in London at the time?
In the countryside,
England,
actually,
in the
yeah.
countryside.
Mm-hmm.
Your grandmother was a great actress, Dame
Yes.
Thora Hird.
Incredible actress.
Did she help you with your acting?
Yeah, I think probably, you know, I've grown up in such a family of performers. I mean, everyone's a performer. But when it comes to my grandmother and what I specifically remember about what she taught me, I mean, I don't think, well, my father, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen somebody such a pro, but my dad was also such a pro. And like, I remember my grandmother telling me things that don't really have to do with acting. Like she said to me, if you're 5 minutes late and you've kept 10 people waiting, you've wasted 50 minutes.
Isn't that interesting?
And I am now a compulsively early person.
But that's a follow-through. That's teaching you
Yeah.
something that you have to use in
Yeah.
this profession of yours.
Yeah.
If you're on the air, you were a radio announcer, you had a
Yes.
show.
Yep.
You couldn't be late for that, could you?
No way. And I do a lot of live television and stuff like that, and you cannot walk in, as you well know, halfway through a live broadcast. No way. And I'm glad she taught me that. And other weird little kind of superstitions, like always sign a contract on a Friday. I mean, weird things like that.
That she had
That are
learned in
fun.
England? That she had learned as she was acting?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why did you leave London then, or the countryside, or boarding school, or the English National Opera,
Sure.
RADA? Why'd you come back to UCLA?
It's a great question, and I hope to give you a great answer, Joni. You know, when we moved to England, I was 11, and I had gone to an all-girls boarding school that whole time, all the way through graduating high school. I never went to football games. I never had a homecoming. I never had a prom. I never went on dates. I was at an all-girls school. I desperately wanted this very American experience that I knew I didn't have.
But were you visiting your father, so you saw what was going on in
Yes,
America?
and remember, I'd gone to school here up until the end of 6th grade,
Right.
so I watched all of my friends go on and do these things, and I was the girl in high school who never had time because I was always rehearsing for something. So I wanted to go to dances and basketball games and all of that very American stuff.
But you turned into a sports junkie at UCLA.
Because of UCLA.
Why? How did that happen?
Well, I was a little bit of a sports junkie before that, to be honest. You know, my dad was a big sports fan, my brothers, my mom even, you know, Wimbledon, everything stops for Wimbledon in our house. And on my dad's side, I mean, the Indy 500, we all get together like it's Thanksgiving. I mean, it's a big family event.
Actually,
so.
that's where my father, who had winning cars at the Indianapolis Speedway, knew your father.
Is that right?
Yes, so
Well,
that's how that connection
I
came.
was lucky enough to, that guy right there.
This is your dad, and this is you at a
basketball game. That's at Pauley Pavilion at UCLA, and my dad was so great about coming to little events like that with me. But he actually made some phone calls and pulled a few strings, and I was able to go to the Indy 500 one year and go down into the pits and see the cars. I mean, this is the kooky, weird girl that I am. I'd rather go to a Laker game than a fine restaurant half the time.
That's really funny, because then you started following. Did you think you were going to be an announcer for sports? Did you ever think about that?
You know, I did. I considered doing the whole sports broadcasting thing. I've worked in sports. I worked for a company called Broadband Sports for a few years, and we had all the interaction with all of the athletes. And I mean, really, it was one of those jobs that when you're an actor, you have a part-time job. And
but you were really serious. You were serious about the sports thing. I mean, you could have made that a career.
Oh yeah, like, you know, don't bring up, you know, tape delay of sports with me, or we'll be here for an hour of me ranting and raving. I can't stand it.
You started doing a lot of voiceovers.
Yes.
And how did that come about? You did animation, commercials. How do you get voiceover?
You know what, Joan? I just think everyone in my family, from my father to James, my brother, who's a singer, we all just have a love affair with the microphone, is the way that I put it. I don't see any other way that this could have happened. Because, as you said, I mean, I've done pretty much anything you can do on a microphone, including some things, you know, that make me blush when I think about it. But, you know, I've done sounds for all kinds of things.
You go to the market and you hear someone talking about the daily specials, and that was your voice.
That was me. When I was a senior in college, I would do the having a picnic this weekend? How about some lemonade to go with your feast? And I would do all of that
You
stuff.
never think of that's a real person over there doing it, because you just hear it when you're walking down the aisles, right?
And the truth is that I was just imitating all of the people that I had heard, and then that's how I literally, luckily, thankfully, fell into this kooky world of voiceover work.
So as a female, and with the voiceovers and with a great voice, we never hear women announcers. We hear very few, you know, like in between TV shows, advertising.
That's absolutely true. I've done a little bit of that promo work, and it is a very male-dominated field. I don't know why, especially during the daytime. To me, it should be a woman's voice. And in fact, when I first got my radio job, they were not looking for a young woman. They were looking for an older guy. And boy, were they surprised when they got me, something a little different.
When you do the voiceovers, you have to use different styles. You have a British accent, right?
Yes, I go up for all the British stuff. I did the big British news report in Syriana, which is great because now you can Google me and George Clooney and 10,000 things come up, so I'm very happy
So
about
the thing is, when you do that, when you were on Syriana, did they see your face? Just heard your voice?
All vocal.
And you did, what else? Bobby?
Yeah.
You did some other films?
You've heard my voice in all kinds of stuff, from Austin Powers to ER and Desperate Housewives, and it's a really fun world. And frankly, if you're the class clown and you're the person that can imitate all the teachers, this might be a really a wonderful avenue for you, because that's really all I do all day.
You mentioned your brother James, and the two of you are doing, you do a lot of performing together. You
Yes.
also do a lot of charity work.
Yes.
And